What up, familia? It's your favorite Puerto Rican Brooklyn Philly, and I'm back with another message. I'm just gonna jump right in, just to see what wants to come out, right? What messages Spirit wants to share with us at this time. 232. I don't know why that is. If that's significant or that may resonate for somebody. I'm hearing look that up. The angel number 232. If anyone looks it up and cares to put it in the comments, greatly appreciate it. I want to thank Spirit. I want to thank my ancestors and spirit guides and angels and fairies, right, and dragons for their protection, their presence. And I feel led to say no weapon formed against us shall prosper, right? And without further ado, we're just going to jump right in. First card that wants to pop out is Emotional Energy. It's a beautiful card, isn't it? I don't know. I heard dragonfly. I know as a human. But that's what, I just got a vision of a dragonfly with their iridescent wings. I mean, it's simply gorgeous. I don't know. I'm seeing now the chakras. Now I'm seeing the rainbow. Now I'm hearing the 7. Oh, there's an actual system of 7 colors. I forget it, but again, if anyone remembers it or knows what I'm talking about, put it in the comments for us, please. She looks serene, at peace, mid-flight, right? She's definitely off the ground. But she doesn't look hurried. One of the things I'm thinking of now when I think of the dragonfly, it looks like their wings are flapping like 1,000,000 miles per second, right, or something. I'm not even sure if that's correct, scientifically, but that to the naked eye, it looks like they're going really, really fast, right? But here there is this, I don't know, I guess if we were to slow down the dragonfly, right, and catch it, and I'm hearing mid-flight like that, right? This is what we would see. But there's something about a peacefulness. The gold is really sticking out. There's something about the aura. Yeah, and then the chakras again are coming up. Emotional energy, yeah. I'm hearing alignment. It says, emotions are messengers to be met with appropriate attention, action, and gratitude. Spirit has been talking a lot to me about that, particularly about rage as liberation, and not just rage, but other negative, quote unquote, emotions, or that we automatically, when they're heard to the ear, they register logically to the mind due to, I'm hearing dogma or indoctrination, to be viewed as negative. So anger and rage being primarily the ones that come to mind. The word selfish as well comes to mind a lot for me when I'm thinking of that. Like that these emotions are, I just heard bad, right? Yeah. I don't know. I got the image of the genie from Aladdin when he got Aladdin and Abu out of the Cave of Wonders, and he says, you're down to 2 wishes, and he said, no, I didn't actually wish that. You got us out on your own. And the genie realizes, oh my God, he didn't actually wish it. He kind of played on my senses, and I did it, but he never asked me. And then he responds to him, you bad boy, right? And he says to him, well, I feel sheepish, right? So that's interesting. And there's significance to that, I'm hearing from Spirit, right? To say, well, I feel sheepish. It's almost, Spirit is saying that for us to believe that type of, to have that type of attitude or belief towards emotions such as rage or anger, it is like sheep that are led to the slaughter, or sheep that Wow, that was real deep. So, wow, Lord. But uh I'm thinking more of how sheep are led, right? They just follow behind one another. The shepherd has to gather them and protect them from the wolves, because the imagery we get is that they're either immature, ignorant, incapable of caring for themselves. Wow. And I don't think spirit is saying that about people necessarily, that that's the truth about them. But when they're indoctrinated with such beliefs, is as if the people doing the indoctrination, um I'm hearing, play them like that, right? And even make them feel that way. There's a spirit of codependency I'm hearing, right? Gaslighting I'm hearing. Yeah, confirmation. So there's something about because now I'm hearing Isa alayhi salam, or Yeshua, or Jesus, right? The same person, just three, in excuse me, confirmation. In Islam, he would be referred to as Isa alayhi salam, and Christianity as Jesus, and in Judaism as Yeshua. So, but I'm being reminded of the story of where he said he went into the temples and he flipped over the tables. He got angry. He said, "Y'all doing this in my father's house?" I don't know why I feel like that, but that's what I just heard. In my father's house? Really? This is how y'all playing in my father's house? Because there was something about them going in there, and I think they were selling stuff in the temple, right? And then again, there was something about, it wasn't so much the act of selling something, it was the act of, I'm hearing, here are these people, these sheep or followers coming for guidance, wisdom, what they believed in, protection, whatever their beliefs were, right? Their belief in this higher power. And they were coming there to receive comfort and assistance, blessings and prayers. And a lot of them were poor, right? And already in great need. And here were these people, it's what I'm hearing is praying on them. Not Praying, Preying, like wolves. Like, yeah, wolves attacking sheep, right? And I'm hearing wolves in sheep clothing. And that's what made Jesus angry. Not that I'm saying that, this is what I'm hearing, right? This is one interpretation of that text, right? And then I'm hearing now that the Bible, if that's what you want to follow, I'm hearing, right? If that's the book, if that's your dogma, if that's your thing, then it clearly says, be angry and sin not. So it's telling you, be angry. What it's saying is sin not, though, as a result of that anger. So there is a way in which repressing this anger and this rage is very dangerous. But it works, I'm hearing, for to quench the masses, to keep them aligned, to keep them in line, to keep them subservient, I'm hearing. Wow. A lot from that emotional energy. And in this card, I'm seeing, right, there's a release of it, though, right? Or if not, at minimum, not a release, but of an expression. And I'm hearing that's the beauty of of being able to express and release that emotion, those emotions, right? When we're able to express them, right? And we can express them, I'm hearing Spirit say, in so many different ways, right? Through dance, through music, through art, through voice, through exercise, through architecture, building, whatever your twist is, right? And that it is healthy. Right? Because what it says is be angry and sin not. Is when we take the rage and the anger and we utilize it I mean, not utilize it, weaponize it against our fellow brethren. Is there a sisterin? No, I think it's just brethren, which would encompass both, right, brothers? Hey, brothers and sisters. The second card that just came out. Wow. Women's supporting women. Oh, women supporting women. Look at that. And again, I don't think it's trying to be gender specific. You know, we both, both males and females, we both, encompass both energies, right? Because that card was just talking about emotional energy. That's not gender energy, emotional energy. But I think the card, of course, because it's speaking, in this deck directly, this is the language this creator of this deck chose. But, how about humans supporting humans? And there is something about, I'm hearing now, the feminine aspect of ourselves when we allow it, right? Because unfortunately, that is the stereotype, right? Oh, women are so emotional. Women cry all the time. Women this, women that, right? And then if a man does or expresses any of those emotions, oh, you're a woman, you're a itch. You know what I'm saying? So I think it's like the card is being shown as a double-edged sword. How imperative I'm hearing the EQ is, emotional intelligence, right? And how much it is needed, right? To do the opposite of repressing, of denying, expressing our feelings and our emotions. But then the backlash that both male and females get, you know what I mean? Depending on the context and the community. And the card says, together we can transcend our individual limitations. See, again, it's transcending our individual limitations, not so there is something about a collective energy, right? Both male and female, right? But that allows for such freedom of expression and of open support for one another. I'm always reminded of how, usually when I've gone to like our family reunions, or when you see it in a lot of the movies and things of that nature, you'll see all of the women are either in the kitchen cooking together around the counter, and they're sharing stories and discussing stuff. And then a lot of the times you see the men, or particularly the elderly man, sitting in a chair, possibly like passed out, taking a nap, and by himself, right? But but the matriarch, she's usually in the kitchen, surrounded by the other women, young and old, and they're sharing stories. So there's something about I don't know, I'm hearing learning from the women, learning from or embracing that feminine aspect of ourselves. And then the card number is 22, which for me is 4, right? Which also speaks to support, right? So safety, security, support, right? Like the 4 legs of a chair or a table, right? It provides stability, it provides security, it provides support. So, I'm hearing spirits talking about, addressing us on an individual level as well as on so I'm hearing macro and micro, right? So individually, the importance of surrounding ourselves with such support, the importance of allowing ourselves to express our emotions, right? Whatever they may be. And if we can do that, if everyone is allowed and feels comfortable to do that individually, that would promote a society, a community, globally, a world, right? That would feel free to do the same. I don't know, I just heard pretty idealistic, huh? But not impossible, I'm hearing. The third card that just came out was intention. Oh God. I'm sorry, but I had a moment earlier. So one of the things that I was listening to an individual break down Immanuel Kant, a philosopher, Kant, and his, he kind of tried in one of his YouTube videos. I think it was an after school video. That's the name of the channel, After School. But the young man if it was a young man, he sounded pretty young. Did a really excellent job in just kind of summarizing, his perspective of Immanuel Kant. Now, of course, I, remember this philosopher from school and even seminary. But one of the things that he kind of summarized in his, which I was like, wow, I didn't know I was such a Kant, I believed in, that we agreed on this philosophy. One of the things that he indicated was that he didn't use the word intention, he used the word purpose. That Kant would say that your purpose is everything, right? That you have to check what's the purpose behind what you're doing. And also he mentioned that he called, he believed in that all humanity, no matter who you were had the rights, right? Had, rights and basic dignities. That's right. That should be afforded to all humans, right? And if you follow some of my videos, you'll always hear me say that the very fact that you have breath, your very essence, right, justifies. It says that you are entitled to those basic rights, right? Yeah, that it is sacred. You're sacred, right? The fact that you're a living, breathing being, right, is enough. You don't have to prove yourself in any kind of way to have the basic rights and basic dignities, human basic rights and human basic dignities, right? And that there's a sacred to this this consciousness that we carry as these human beings is sacred, right? Or should be looked at as sacred. And then, he goes on to even, like I said, further that point about purpose. But for me, is intention. And one of the things that happened with me that drove that point for me, especially in Islam, right? In Islam, it is even before we pray, right? It's, you set the intention, right? And not that we're ignorant of the fact, not intention without accountability and responsibility. Let me put it that way. Because, a lot of people have done a lot of atrocities and tell you they didn't, and that wasn't their intention. So it's not just intention, right? But there is something about being mindful of why you're doing something. What is your intention behind this act, Yeah, and that's what the gentleman was talking about. Is it, what or who is the means and what or who is the end, right? And that human beings should never be the means to an end, right? That's when it becomes a sense of disrespect and not honoring the sacred consciousness of someone. So there's something about that, right? And then this card talks about intention lacking, personal direction begets confusion, and life as a pawn to someone else's game of chess. Get the freak out of here. We were talking about the sheep, right? And being led to the slaughter, right? And, being told, like, what are you listening to? What beliefs have you internalized, right? And then, so again, this is beautiful because it just aligned with what I said. Because for me, not only is what is your purpose or what is your intention, but that it should not be without accountability and responsibility, right? So just as I believe every human being has the right to, the basic rights and human dignity, and to understand that their consciousness is sacred, but so do I, right? One of the things that I remember crying to Spirit about, and I'll be a little vulnerable about that, is interesting how it would be real easy for me to see the human rights and dignity in almost all living beings, but then I've struggled with my own sense of value and my own sense of self-worth. And that was mind blowing to me when I saw that, because it's like, how can I see and preach and really believe in my heart of hearts that every human being out here, I even have this thing about the insects and flowers and plants, and so yeah, that was mind blowing. But uh so there's this sense of saying, when you don't have a sense of intention or purpose of where you're going and what you want to do, but not just this worldwide purpose, but this personal purpose of who you are, what do you want for yourself, and how do you want to live. And if you don't understand that, then you will become this pawn that can be just used in somebody else's game of chess. You become this sheep that just follows, right? That just becomes codependent, that can be easily gaslit or conditioned, right? I hope I'm explaining this. I hope it makes sense, because I hear it in my head and I understand it in my heart. But I've been sitting with this for weeks, for longer than that. But it's just been a repetitive theme, specifically in the last couple of weeks. So, and look at the bottom of the deck. Radical self-acceptance. Yeah, and I'm hearing, once you do that, once you radically accept yourself, then you don't allow anyone to disrespect you, to just step to you or treat you in any kind of way, right? You don't just accept breadcrumbs or no, and you don't seek outside validation, right? Or affirmation, and it's not to say that you become like this robot or that you don't want a compliment, or that's not what it's negating. It's saying that, but when that doesn't become your need or your, oh God, spirit, like, what is your end, right? What is your goal at the end for you? And in getting that goal and obtaining that goal, what are you going to do? Are you going to use people, trick people, cheat people, lie to people? And then more importantly, I don't know if it's more important, but just as important, are you going to cheat yourself, lie to yourself, deceive yourself, disrespect yourself? Right? So there's something about, at the root, at the foundation, is radical self-acceptance, because usually the bottom of the deck for me is the precursors. Like if the movie was emotional energy, women supporting women, and intention, then the prequel to that movie is radical self-acceptance. This is the card that set off that type of theme, that set the theme for that movie line, right? For that dialogue. Now it's interesting, because when I moved the radical self-acceptance, let me read it first. Spirit is saying, excuse me, confirmation. I just get so excited. But you are perceived the way you perceive yourself. I can't make this up. That's what it says. We want to screenshot it. Which goes right back to the first card. So it makes sense that this would be the prequel. Right? Emotional, and it's all energy. The energy you emit, that pours out of you from your pores. This is what you leave, right? This is what you're emitting, is what you'll attract. If you perceive yourself to not be worthy, and I know about this personally, right? And it's not just what people do to you personally, even with property. So, for example, Spirit is saying, excuse me, I took a sip of coffee. So, for example, I remember going to a family member's house and her being very angry that people ashed on her floor when they were smoking. But she ashes on her floor, and she couldn't see the correlation. And then she would say, when I go to other people's house, I never disrespect their house like that. And she was right. But she disrespected her own home. So when they came over, they disrespected it too. She couldn't see the correlation at the time. Same thing with your car, I'm hearing. If when you get into a car, if it looks immaculate and clean, usually the people who get into that car You know, I'm hearing Spirit say, you say Ubers or Lyfts. So the Uber is true, depending on the Uber. When you get into that Uber, and I've gotten into some really nice Ubers where the aroma is smelling so good, the seats look immaculate. You know, I even sit a little more proper. I'm not gonna lie. It's true. There's something about, you know, what energy are you emitting? That's what I'm hearing again, right? And okay, they're telling me go to the third one because there was something about women supporting women or people just supporting one another. So again, you know, even to speak, if you don't feel you should be supported, it goes back to that radical self-acceptance. You know, if you don't feel you should be supported, if you don't feel you should be valued or respected, 9 times out of 10 you'll behave in ways where that's what people will perceive from you. You know, and yeah, I'm hearing people will treat you as you allow them. But what I almost wanted to say before I jumped from that was after I removed the card of radical self-acceptance and left this card bare. And all I saw was like Kali, right, with the many hands. And I thought of rage as liberation. It says here, acknowledge, assert, and protect what is right for you. Yeah, again, I'm hearing rage as liberation and righteous anger, right? If there's something about you should be angry if you're not, you know, if you're disrespected, if you're home, right? So Jesus went in there and flipped the tables of the temple. So what is the living temple today per Christians, right, is the body, right? You'll hear many a Christians say, well, my body is my temple then. Well, then are you disrespecting your body? Yeah, and now it's going there. You know, do you eat well? Do you sleep well? Do you put poisons and intoxicants in there? And then some of you may say, well, I don't smoke, I don't do drugs. But do you put fried foods and even if you say, no, I don't do fried foods or what, sugar, white cane sugar, processed foods, right? If even if you're doing all of that, right, are you sleeping the adequate amount? You know, again, so spirit is bringing it right back, right? Or at the very minimum, indicating that it begins with self. You know, now I'm hearing Michael Jackson, you know, the song "Make That Change." You know, the gentleman in that video called it the Michael Jackson Maxim. I like that, right? Because I would just use it, and interestingly enough, I had just done a video 2 days prior to that, where that's where what spirit showed to me that again, if we're talking about beginning at the root, then they must begin with self, right? It has to begin with self. I did a video where I was watching The Gangs of New York, the movie, and went down that whole road. But as a result, you know, landed to the fact that, you know, at the end of the day, self-inventory needs to be done, right? Again, there's something about intention without accountability and responsibility is dangerous, right? So not only do you have to set the intention, but you have to make sure that you're assuming accountability and responsibility in whatever that intention is that you're setting. You have to understand that you are, you know, that everything, I'm hearing, it begins with self. And so if I want to see change, if I want to, now I'm hearing, you know, I graduated from the HBCU, Lincoln University, and one of their big things was, you know, producing change agents, right? Utilizing systems approach or systems thinking, right? And how am I best at becoming a change agent is changing myself, being an example, looking at the ways in which like that family member, disrespected herself, yet was appalled and even angry that she was being disrespected in that way. And again, it doesn't justify the people to say, "Oh, well, you disrespect." So no, everybody has accountability and needs to be responsible, because just because I see, even though I could see that she disrespected her, I still had the choice not to disrespect her house that way. Okay. But there is definitely something about righteous anger and righteous, and rage as liberation, right? So, these goddesses, yeah, like Kali and Sekhmet and Oya and Lilith, right? Or these feminines, not all of them are like goddesses, but these feminines, that have been demonized, or now I'm hearing the angry black woman, or every feminine that has been characterized, and now I'm hearing the villains in like the Disney or the other, you know what I'm saying, like Maleficent or Cruella, right? Is usually because they're refusing to be subservient, they're refusing to be disrespected, they're refusing to just go along with the, I'm here, I was about to say with the program, but I heard with the good old boys club, right? That says it's okay for you to grab my stuff and my kitty cat and, golden showers and all this other stuff. I don't know why Spirit want to go there, but yeah, it's not okay. That it's okay for you to objectify me. No, it's not okay. That it's okay for you to cheat on me, beat on me, you know what I mean, steal from me, disrespect. No, it is not, right? It's never been, and it should never be, right? Now, whether or not people, like I said, follow that is a different story, right? And I'm hearing, again, even women ourselves, right? I'm being reminded of this current administration, and I don't know why, but emails, not just recently, but even prior, comments by this, people in this administration that were very sexist, misogynist, even racist, yet women voted for him. Women voted for him. Right? And it's like, what mentality, what mindset one must have, or even belief about self, for you to agree with an individual that outright disrespects your very essence as a woman. I'm gonna leave that at that. Anything else, Spirit? Okay, seeing this deck. So definitely the theme is about radical self-acceptance, the ability to express oneself, right? Creatively and in any way that we want, right? Sorry, I put my glasses back on. I'm hearing the Michael Jackson song, "If you want to make the world a better place, take a look at yourself and make that change." And what I'm hearing Spirit is saying, you don't have to make it, or you don't have to do it alone, right? We can seek assistance and support of others who may be in that walk themselves, or aspiring towards such goals themselves, right? And that although it starts off as an individual thing, it culminates into a collective thing. I'm hearing you choose, you decide, right? And there's something so beautiful about her face there. It's so introspective because there's something about honoring what your body is feeling, what your mind, your intuition, your senses, your emotions. When I'm talking to this person, how do I feel? When I eat this food, how do I feel? When I'm in this space, how do I feel? There's an honoring. It's sacred. You're sacred. I'm not a prize to be won. Back to Aladdin, right? That was Jasmine's whole thing. Dad was, Allah forbid you should have any daughters to Raja the tiger. He was like, huh? What are you talking about, right? But even his statement, Allah forbid you should have any daughters. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Allah meaning God in Arabic, right? And even that, there has been a history of, there's something about that spirit is talking about. So although I was saying that it's not specific to women, so it is and it isn't. So it's specific to femininity in general. And I'm hearing, yes, it is the feminine because it's the femininity outside of the male and the disrespect and disdain that they have for that, which is really an internal reflection of the disdain and disrespect they have for their own femininity. And I'm hearing Michael's song again. Take a look at yourself and make that change. Oh, Ashe, brother. Thank you for the legacy that you left. I'm gonna make that change for once in my life. Gonna feel real good. Gonna make a difference. Gonna make it right. And and I'm hearing make it right for yourself first, right? I mean, I know I posted a YouTube short the other day that song by Whitney Houston. It came out in 1985. It was called You Give Good Love. You give good love to me, baby. So good, take this heart of mine. I can't sing, y'all, but into your hands. But one of the lines she said, it took some time for me to see, right? And for the first time in years, it took me literally 40 years. I was 11 years old when that song came out. I finally saw that the good love I had been waiting for was for the love for myself. But for years I was singing that song looking for a mate, right? From a man or from outside of me, an external validation, whether it was familial or friendships or romantic. When the whole time it needed to come from me. And I believe that once I understood that it came from me, that I'm the one that can give me good love, right? And once I see that I am able to do that, now I believe it's going to flood in, like the floodgates are open now, right? Because femininity is also about receptivity, I'm hearing, right? And I'm being looking at her hands, they're open and lifted, right? Or two of them are the two bottom ones, but there's something about receptivity and the balance of both, right? To be receptive and to be fierce enough to defend my right to receive. Right? And if you can't get the respect from the community you in, the family you live in, they might not find others who are of like mind, who are also in this receptive mode, who also want to honor their feminine, right? Again, consciousness is sacred, right? And I'm being, reminded back to Kant philosophy, where, you know, part of his understanding of why consciousness was sacred was because he indicated that Kant believed that as human beings, we were the only beings that we know of, right? Because animals don't necessarily speak to us, neither do the birds, the insects and things of that nature, but that can rationalize, you know, make logical decisions, correct when we're wrong. So that we have the opportunity, we have the skills and the ability to make this world a better place. The universe created us as such. I just heard with unlimited possibility for such a beautiful existence. We know right from wrong. Look at this. Can't make it up. Repression. But we're told to repress everything. Then we wonder why we walk around with anxiety and depression and anger and rage, and then it comes out in all I'm hearing sick and distorted ways, because you can hold a ball underwater but for so long. There's a saying, Carl Jung, when he's talking about the shadow, that he says you can only repress but for so long. It's like a ticking time bomb ready to pop. Kaboom. And then this is marked as the 15, which would be the devil. Right? 15 is the devil, right? Because 16 is the tower. Am I correct? Yeah, the devil. Yeah. Right? So that's interesting. Have you ever heard of the devil being repression? Instead of thinking of it as two horns and a tail, repression as one of the most self-destructive ways, things you can do to yourself, which would go back to, again, Kant philosophy. That's interesting. We're going back to, it's a lot of philosophy, and even psychologists like Carl Jung, the Swiss psychologist, talking about shadow, right? Because that's what Jung would say, that is the shadow aspect that you're repressing, those parts of yourself that you don't want people to see. Hence why we wear masks, the persona,